So this is take two of the rankings update for Noche UFC. For some reason, the video wouldn't upload to YouTube before. It was running into error, so we're going to try it again. We are updating a number of the divisions. The UFC has done their own rankings updates, but I will share with you my updates and why they are correct compared to Dana White and the UFC's. But we'll start right away with the women's flyweight division, probably the smallest change. The only thing that changes is Tina and Grasso. Calling her Tina like she's my homie. She is my homie. Valentina becomes champ. Grasso becomes number one contender. It's the only real change up here. Looks like Fiorot is going to be the next for the title shot. She is most deserving. Would like to see that in like March of 25, like during one of the pay-per-view co-mains or something like that. Or feature fight would be great. But we're going to move on. Women's bantamweight also has some changes here. Norma Dumont moving up 3 spots. This is also in line with what the UFC did as well. They moved her up from 8 to 5, which I agree with. She was 8. She was fighting 5 Irene Aldana. Now, the UFC moved Mayra Bueno Silva down a spot. I didn't. I just moved Irene Aldana down 2 spots. I think she took such a beating that she should move down 2 spots, and Mayra Bueno Silva should stay where she is. I think Irene Aldana looked worse in her performance against Norma Dumont than Mayra Bueno Silva did against Macy Chiasson. Not saying a lot. Again, not like Aldana didn't try and go out there and be a warrior, but she got beat up worse than Mayra Bueno Silva did. Both did end via cuts. Or actually, Aldana's went to decision, but that was a worse cut in my opinion. I also have Cara Rosa moving 1 spot above Holly Holm because Holly Holm's last fight was a loss to Kayla Harrison. Don't even know if we'll see her in the octagon again. Cara Rosa's coming off a win. So I changed that around. 5 is now Norma Dumont. That's the biggest change. Irene Aldana moves down to 7. And Rosa and Holly Holm just switched spots here. Also moved Aylin Perez up a spot because the UFC had Chelsea Chandler at 14. And I can't see that person in the 14th spot. She is not worthy of it. She just came off a loss to Yana Santos, who's ranked 10. And Penny Gonzalez coming off a couple losses as well. But they're 2 like number 8 ranked or 9 ranked Carl Rosas. They're 2 like a Macy Chiasson and a Ketlin Vieira and those fighters. So moved her up to 15 because I think she's just a better fighter than Chelsea Chandler. But maybe one day she'll prove me wrong. Flyweight, no changes. We're going to get to bantamweight at the end of the video. Featherweight, there's a couple of changes. Welterweight, there's no changes. Nothing else really has changes in here except for featherweight and bantamweight, so let's just get into it. Diego Lopes is the big talk here, moving up 9 spots to the 4 spot. The UFC has him moving to the 10 spot, but dude, listen, I want to shit on Movsar Evloev as much as everyone else, but I can't put him below Diego Lopes knowing that he beat Diego Lopes. So, with Diego Lopes going up to the 4 spot, I actually moved Movsar Evloev up 2 spots to go over him. UFC has him at 6. I think that's wrong. The UFC also has like Ortega at 5 or something, and Yair at 4. So I don't like that. I think they have Diego Lopes, Yair, Ortega, Evloev. Don't agree with that at all. So I actually moved Evloev up 2 spots to the 3 because he has a win over Ortega, who's moved up 9 spots to the number 4 after beating Ortega. Arnold Allen moves up 1 spot. He was 6, and now he's at 5. The UFC moved him down to 7 with Lopes, but I move him up to 5 because he is going to beat all 3 of these guys. Like, I think he does beat all 3 of them, and he's coming off a win over Giga Chikadze. Aljamain Sterling coming over a win against Calvin Kattar, and he also was the bantamweight champion. But I also think Arnold Allen had such a competitive fight with Movsar Evloev that he could have won, so that's why I have him above Aljo. And we'll see what happens when these guys fight on October 5th. So Aljo and Movsar will fight on October 5th. There will be changes made then. But let's talk about the guys that moved down. Ortega and Yair each moved down 4 spots. Listen, Yair's coming off a loss to Ortega. Ortega's coming off a brutal loss to Diego Lopes. So these guys move down below the guys that have coming off wins. They do. They haven't fought, Ortega looked really bad in his fight with Lopes. Lopes just beat his ass. And again, it's not like Ortega's, I don't want to say he's declining or anything. I think Lopes outclassed him, but I do think Ortega is fading out. Like, he's 34, getting beat up in his last couple fights. I think he's absorbed a total of like, I don't know. I thought I saw a stat that was like 750 significant strikes in his last 4 fights or something, or 6 fights or something, but let's not worry about that because that's very sad. Moving Ortega and Yair down 4 spots each, I think it's the right way to go, and I moved Emmett down 2 spots. He hasn't fought in quite a while, and his last win's over Bryce Mitchell, so I don't know why I would put him above. Lastly, let's finish him off, with bantamweight. Merab goes up to the champion. O'Malley stays as the number 1 contender now. So it's the 1-2 switch up here. Same thing with Tina and Grasso. Again, Tina, like she's my homie. Sugar, also my homie. Merab, go fuck yourself, bud. We move on. Aldo's going up 3 spots here to the 7. And the reason I'm doing this is I'm looking and Chito Vera and Rob Font are above him. I don't know if you guys remember, but Aldo beat Chito Vera very easily. He beat Rob Font also very easily within the past 2 years. Comes back, gets a win. So he got booted out of the rankings because he retired after giving Merab Dvalishvili the hardest fight of his career other than the losses, like the hardest winning fight of his career. Aldo didn't get taken down at all. Merab was 0 for 16 on takedowns against Aldo. That was better than Umar. I'm sorry, that was better than Sean, Petter, and Cejudo. So I could make an argument that Aldo should even be even higher than 7. But you know what? We're going to put him at 7. He's going above these 3 guys. He's better than these 3 guys, and he has wins over 2 of them. Song Yadong also coming off a loss to Petr Yan. Nothing to be ashamed about. So is Aldo. But Aldo's coming off wins against these guys down here. So Chito moves down 2 spots to the 9. Font moves down 1 spot to the 10. And Aldo moves up 3 spots. Those are the other changes to bantamweight. If you don't agree with that, I don't really give a fucking shit because you're wrong. Aldo has wins over these guys. You want to know who he also has a win over? Number 13 ranked Jonathan Martinez. When he got back in the rankings, he also had a win over Pedro Munoz, who was ranked 15 at the time. So he has more ranked wins than a lot of these guys. He's moving up, going to the 7 spot. So a couple of big changes here. Diego Lopes, one of the most significant, obviously the title changes. And then Jose Aldo moving up as well. I think those are some of the more significant changes that I wanted to break down with you. Norman Dumont, obviously a big spot up. Love seeing her in the top 5. But last thing I want to say, kudos to Merab. I've been kind of a bitch about it for the past couple days, so I'll own up to it. I've been a little bit of a bitch about it, but one thing I'm not going to be a bitch about, and I'm just going to tell you how it is. Listen, Merab Glazers, it's good that he won. Congratulations. He is a deserving owner of a title. He really is. But cut out the shit. Like, cut the shit with saying, oh, you don't like grappling? Just go watch boxing and kickboxing if you don't like Merab's style. I like grappling. I like grappling a lot. I like high-level grappling. I like finishability. I like damage in the grappling. That's why I like to watch Arman Sarukian, Islam Makhachev, Charles Oliveira, Alex Volkanovski when he decides to grapple, Diego Lopes, Brian Ortega. I like watching all these guys fight because they do damage when they grapple. DC, one of those guys, right? John Jones was one of those guys. He was fun to watch before he was beating the fuck out of his wife. You know what I mean? I like watching grappling. But I like watching entertaining grappling. I like watching damage-inducing grappling. I like watching finishing type, finishability in the grappling. Just because I don't like Merab's style doesn't mean I don't like grappling. Doesn't mean that I should have to go to kickboxing or boxing. Stop pretending too hard to be a hardcore. If you want your pat on the back, I'll give you the pat on the back. Congrats, you watch your sport. If you've known Merab for a long time, you've seen him go all the way up. I'm glad you're happy you got to see him win. But you don't get to gaslight everyone into acting like they don't know what they're talking about because they don't like watching Merab lay on top of people, hold them against the cage, knee them brutally to the thigh for 5 rounds. No one likes watching that except for you because you want people to say, wow, they really get the sport. Don't worry, dude, you belong in the club. You're in the club. Like, we get it. You like the sport. We all love the sport too. I just like it a little bit more entertaining. Doesn't mean I have to change to kickboxing and boxing. At the end of the day, kudos to Merab. Had to go on that little side rant because it's been pissing me off. I've been on social a little too much. Might gotta block it out a little bit more in my life, which I'll start doing. Make me a little less crazy, but it is what it is. Hope you enjoyed the rankings updates, and if you did, please like and subscribe.